Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Born Free here. I'm super excited today because I have a new, I guess like the start of possibly a new show. This is just going to be kind of a podcast. Let me know if you want me to pursue this, but this could turn into something which is live. It could have guests, it could have gameplay, interviews, debates, arguments, all that good stuff. And I actually have, we don't have a name, and I say we because I have a co-host who I'll tell you about in a minute. We don't have a name, so if you can think of a name, please write it in the comments, and if we think it's good and we pick it, you will win this exclusive Shinakuma Kid Robot figure, which is worth $50 when I first bought it, but it's probably worth a lot more now, so get on that. For now, we just have a silly placeholder name. Anyway, my co-host is known mainly for his amazing banners on event hubs. And he also had a Goken, but that's not relevant anymore. Please welcome Velociraptor.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. How are you? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm getting ready for work, starting the day, doing this this show, podcast, potential thing, and I'm excited.
Good. So actually, the truth is, what we're going to talk about today is the Ultra Street Fighter 4 revival. So your Goken might be relevant again. I don't know.
Should we bring the old man back?
Yeah, I would like to bring. I actually love that character, and you know.
Yeah, I appreciated him.
Yeah, you were all right to watch, as a Goken player. So, so why don't you tell everybody, because not everybody's going to know what's going on right now. What's this Ultra Street Fighter 4 revival?
Yeah. So, as far as the Street Fighter community right now, right? Street Fighter V is in a transition phase. We've had this first whole year, Season 1. It's been okay, but there have definitely been some potholes that we've hit. And right now we have another balance patch that's coming out sometime probably within a month or so, we're guessing. But because we know that the game's going to change, we were kind of like, we're not sure if it's what we want to play right now, because it's like, well, I don't want to necessarily practice a game that's going to change. And that combined with the general, like, it's fun to hate on Street Fighter V mentality, I feel like has maybe kind of led to this sudden Street Fighter 4 revival, where a lot of people are kind of going the nostalgic route and talking about putting this into tournaments and wanting to play this again. It's like, let's just go play some Street Fighter 4. And I guess we even saw one of the biggest things is Lapchi, the Canada Cup organizer, has did a poll on Twitter and has decided after I think it was like 600 people almost said that they would go strictly for Street Fighter 4. So he said, all right, well, we're going to throw Street Fighter 4 at our event, and if it goes well, we'll continue to bring it back. And it's kind of developed this stuff like that, plus banter on social media and such. We've seen something of a potential revival for Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, and I've seen, I think Lapchi was talking about a pop bonus for people to throw money at. And also, our
it's like every 100 people is going to add like, no, it's every 50 people, he'll add a $500 pop bonus.
Right.
Lapchi, Mr. Moneybags, throwing stuff around like that.
Right, isn't that crazy? Well, he doesn't, as far as I know, he doesn't play Street Fighter 5. So I think he plays like Blanca, right, in Street Fighter 4. So I think he wants to bust that out and celebrate those good times. And maybe he's got a better chance of winning now. Who knows? Although I think Knuckle-Doo is going to win any Street Fighter 4 tournament there is going right now. The other thing is, I believe our Kappa are looking at potentially sponsoring a player to come over from Japan or somewhere, wherever in the world, and enter. So this thing has momentum behind it. So I guess
there's even a Facebook group, a Street Fighter 4 revival Facebook group, and they hold like I think it's monthly tournaments both in North America and Europe, and they're looking to they're really trying to expand though and stuff. So there's definitely discussion and a want for this return.
Now, that doesn't surprise me, right? The idea of having celebrating an older game and playing an older game is not unusual at all. having side tournaments for older games is not unusual at all. But, you know, this specifically, I think, has some political ramifications and some business ramifications for Capcom. So I guess the question is, and which we've sort of started to move into, is why is this happening? Now, you talked a little bit about a couple of those reasons. You know, I think if I can summarize possibly that there are definitely people who like Street Fighter 4 and still want to play Street Fighter 4, and some people who still do play Street Fighter 4. And there are some people who, you know, want to hate on Street Fighter 5. There are other people who just want Street Fighter 5 to get better, you know? And for me, I feel like this is multi-layered. So there is definitely an element of people who want to play Street Fighter 4, but I think there's an element of this wouldn't really be a big deal. They wouldn't be making it such a big deal if Street Fighter 5 was as well received as Street Fighter 4 was. And I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but when Street Fighter 4 first came out, there were all these Third Strike people. It's not quite the same thing at all.
It's not at all
not
the same
at all.
thing.
Not on this scale. This is totally different. So I actually think that there's a lot of people are behind it to send a message to Capcom, which is, you need to communicate with us and tell us what's going on with Street Fighter 5, and tell us if you're listening to us and what you're intending to do with this game. Otherwise, we're going to go cheat on you with our ex-girlfriend. You know? Like, that's the analogy for me, is basically like, hey, listen, our communication isn't great right now. I'm just going to go and have coffee with my ex. We're just friends, but who knows what could happen? The implication, it's like, not
I'm
quite,
picturing,
no,
for me, I'm picturing going and having coffee with a 80-year-old buff dude. And thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's like, you know, I don't mean it like that, but it's the same thing. Like, sometimes it does feel a little bit like some people are sending a message. Talking about Street Fighter 4, just purely Street Fighter 4, like, obviously there's this pop bonus, which is, you know, potential pop bonus, which is going to happen. My only concern with it at the moment is that I don't feel that the high execution characters, you know, like it was so fun to see like Daigo with Evil Ryu. He's not going to be able to do that. Right
yeah,
now.
We're not going to see Evil Ryu combos. We're not going to see all those one-frame links perfectly done. It'll be sloppy Fighter 4, for sure. Yeah.
Sloppy seconds Street Fighter 4. Yeah, it will. And my fear is that the Elenas of this world, you know, it's going to be a snooze fest in that regard. But we'll see. We'll see. Now, you had brought up this idea that it reminded you. Did it remind you of Melee and Brawl? Did you want to talk about that?
I think the very one of the next things that the community discussion is going to move towards is comparing the evolution from Street Fighter 4 to 5 and what we're seeing right now with the way the Smash community moved from Melee to Brawl to back to Melee. I think that it just makes sense to start talking about that, but I also think that it is very much apples to oranges. It's not the same thing for a few crucial reasons. Mm-hmm. First of all, we have this whole nostalgia factor, and that happens every time a new game comes out, right? Mm-hmm. And people, like right now, like the idea of going back to Street Fighter 4 is really exciting and stuff, but I don't think that it's quite as perfect of a game as they are thinking. You know, it's kind of like that grass is always greener feel. But right now, it's just amazing in people's minds. So the reason why Brawl was not as successful with the competitive crowd was because it was made to be a party game. Sakurai and the developers, they put a trip mechanic into the game so that when you were moving around, your character at any time could randomly trip and fall, and I mean, it was just this random, like, whoop, you can't do what you were doing anymore. Mm-hmm. And that, just knowing that could happen, that took the competitive aspect out of it in a big way. People still wanted to play it, but that was one of the main things that really killed it. And then, you know, there's like the whole broken Meta Knight and things like that. And games can exist with broken characters, as we've seen almost every fighting game, but it was that lack of competitiveness that the developers put directly into the game that I think was the major problem. And while I'm not going to go and say that Street Fighter V is a perfectly competitive game, the developers absolutely are doing everything they can to market towards the competitive audience, as well as the casuals. I'm not commenting on whether or not they've achieved those things, for the casual audience, for the competitive audience, but they are striving to make a game that works for these pro tournament circuits, for the Capcom Pro Tour, whereas Brawl was not that. And then you also, going back to the nostalgia factor, you have to question, well, like the process of fighting games, as we've seen, is oftentimes when you're going through a series of fighting games, the numbered games, so Melee and then Brawl and then Smash 4 or Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5. When a new numbered game comes out, it almost always cannibalizes the previous game. There's always still a crowd because they're the diehard fans that only like the Third Strike or only like ST or only like 4. But for the most part, the community moves to that new game. And with very little exception, maybe only the whole Melee Brawl ordeal, when the community moved forward and moved back, it immortalized Melee. And so you have to wonder, if that happened with the Street Fighter games in question right now, would 4 become immortalized? Would it become a staple at every tournament for as far as the eye can see? And I think going along with that nostalgia factor, people would really want that. Those that like 4, that want 4, that are really hype about it right now, like, oh, that's so, that's such a fantastic romantic idea. Like, we could immortalize this game that, all the 09ers, pardon my French, grew up with, and started with and loved. So I think that a lot of these conversations, if they haven't started yet, they're about to start. And yeah, but I don't think that it's apples to apples. I don't think that it will actually progress in the way that Melee and Brawl did.
I don't think so either. There's a couple of reasons that I wanted to add on top of that. One is that Nintendo never had any intentions of patching, I don't even think they could at the time, patching Brawl or bringing out a new edition of Brawl, to make it more competitive. They've never had any intentions of making any of those games competitive. It just so happened that Melee was. Melee's an interesting one because it's very old technology, and it feels like there's a lot of spectators, and maybe there are a lot of players, but it's got this bizarre small group of gods with Leffen, which makes it a very interesting drama that plays out. You kind of get to know these characters very well, and I can't imagine that happening with Ultra Street Fighter 4. Which actually brings me on to the last thing, because we don't want this video to go on forever, because we want people to click on it. So if this revival happens at Canada Cup, and I have to question whether Capcom will step in, because Canada Cup is currently listed as on the CPT, and Capcom could easily step in from a business perspective and say, stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop. Like, this isn't happening, okay? Otherwise, you're going to lose your CPT, you're going to lose the opportunity to be part of the CPT, and your numbers will go down and all that stuff. So the question is, will if the revival happens, will it last? What do you think?
I also, so say Street Fighter 4 came back to center stage, the bar for judging fighting games has been raised, as it naturally will do. You're not comparing, you're not using the same rubric to judge Street Fighter 2 as you are 5. 5 is a really good game if you were to judge it by the same way people judged Street Fighter 2 when it came out. Because when 2 came out, they're just like, hey, I just want this. This is cool. This is a fighting game. These characters have these cool moves. They weren't thinking about balance and such. And that progressed for each game. But now the expectation is at where we are with Street Fighter V, and it's like, I gotta have great internet. When 4 came out, it was like, hey, cool, the internet. Oh, it slowed down a little bit while I was playing, but it's the internet. I mean, I'm happy to be able to play some guy, across the country or in another country completely. But now it's like everyone wants their perfect lagless internet. They want, all of the expectations of all of the lessons learned in previous fighting games. And so you'll go back to 4, and you'll find out that there are still some broken things, some lame things. It is a great game. I enjoyed it. It was my first competitive fighting game, but like you were saying, like we might have some more snooze fest Elena things and things like that, and we will quickly be reminded of all of the things that we were not super happy with 4. Again, because our standards have changed from where they were there, and so I think the honeymoon phase will also burn out kind of quickly with that. Did that answer your question though?
No, it does. I think I have similar thoughts. I think my biggest concern is really the standard of the players. So with that comes I think what you'll see is the characters that are easier to execute will rise to the top, and the characters that are actually more interesting, it's unlikely that you're going to see Takedo. I'm going to pick a lot of Shotos because I'm a big Shoto fan, but those are really popular games. The matches to watch. Momochi versus Daigo. Takedo. Those guys. That's some really high execution stuff, and unless those guys come back 100%, or somebody else comes in 100% and can perform at that level, then you're looking at a game that potentially has sort of half the cast in the top 8, the wrong half, in my opinion. So that would be my concern, and it would take one hell of a community drive to keep putting in these huge pot bonuses. And it would also mean Capcom would have to let these TOs get away with it. And I don't know that would happen. So I think at the moment, a message is being sent. I think it's possible that there will be future side events for Ultra Street Fighter 4, which will continue, just like there have been for ST and Third Strike. But I don't know that this is going to be, as you say, like a Melee Brawl situation.
Yeah, I think for 4 to fully come back, to have a true revival, 5 would have to die. And I don't see 5 dying. Yes, people complain about parts of it. Yes, it has had its problems. But one, Capcom is backing it. It is the Pro Tour game. It is coming out with a new patch. And hey, maybe this new patch is going to fix almost everything. We don't know. There are a lot of variables, but 5 has a lot of HP still, and I don't, like you said, the money is going to be towards 5. The promotion is all for 5. It would take one hell of a community effort, and I don't think that that 5 is on shaky enough ground yet for us to even really entertain that. I think Capcom Cup will happen. It'll be at 4 will be at Capcom Cup. I'm sorry, Canada Cup. And it might be at other tournaments, but even if 4 kind of had this thing going alongside 5 for 2017, I think ultimately it would take 5's death in order to truly bring back 4, and I don't see that happening, even with the way things have been, over this first year and people saying the things that they've been saying about 5.
Okay, so let's wrap it up because I'm looking at the timer and I think we've done almost 20 minutes.
Okay.
So just as as an outro, I wanted to say to everybody watching, let us know your thoughts on the Ultra Street Fighter 4 revival. I guess the final thing is, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, let us know, and maybe this could be the beginning of something bigger. So, thank you, John. Make Goken great again. Let's hope he returns to Street Fighter 5. And goodbye, everybody. Until next time.
Thanks a lot.